Okay, we are live. So, thank you for joining, Dominic. We want to talk about your journey, resonate, and everything, which I have been meaning to talk to you since long. But yeah, I think this is a nice opportunity. So, thank you for taking out time in your evening.
Hey, thank you very much for setting this up.
All right. So let's start with the first question. So, how did the startup bug bit you, and you decided you stumbled upon the idea of resonate, and even a little bit of context before that will be awesome.
Oh, the startup bug actually bit me pretty late in life. So I came to the United States in 2008 after I finished college in Germany. And I joined SAP, industry giant, which is obviously pretty far from a startup. And in 2008 was actually a great time to start the professional journey because the cloud
Yeah.
was in its infancy. And
Hmm.
so in 2006, AWS released S3, its first cloud service. And then in 2007, Heroku released its platform, which for me is still the gold standard of developer experience and operational experience. And so you could argue that I grew up professionally in lockstep with the cloud. And growing up in lockstep with the cloud means growing up with and around distributed systems. So I was fortunate enough to were always around distributed systems for my entire career. And if you look at SAP being a really large company, that translates to its systems, right? It has many
Hmm.
systems and it has very large systems. So that was a really fantastic playground also for a growing engineer. And so then from SAP, after 10 years at SAP, from SAP, I joined Cisco, which is yet another industry giant, right? So still
Right.
very, very far from a startup. But then after 2 years at Cisco, I joined Temporal. And at that time, I was employee number 22. So I downgraded from 100,000 employees at SAP to 80,000 employees at Cisco to 22 employees. So, and that was the moment when the startup bug then bit me pretty hard, and I very very much enjoyed that change, right, in scenery,
Mhm.
and then also that different from corporate life to startup life.
Right. Yeah. So, how did you then decide that you're going to build Resonate? How was that day, that week like? How did you met your co-founder?
Also, my co-founder, I met many years ago, about 10 years ago, at SAP. So we worked together at SAP in the same team on many, many projects. And then eventually he left SAP and I left SAP, but we always stayed in touch.
Mhm.
And so he was I mean, I was super hopeful at that time. Also a little nervous, yeah. But then when I reached out to him and asked him if he is interested in like starting a company together, right? That was nerve wracking, yeah,
Right.
because I knew how well we work together and how efficiently we communicate and brainstorm and work on complex systems together. So I was really, really like hoping that he's going to join the journey. And then, lucky enough, yeah. So he was excited and he was on board. So that is how we started the company. Yeah, that's how we started Resonate.
Yeah, that is super cool. So, do you think that having a co-founder, or especially someone whom you know for so long, gives you an advantage? Because sometimes we see in stories, startup stories, that people met during the pitch days, or even during the funding days, and then they're clubbed together, that okay, you guys should co-found this together. So how is your that bonding like? Do you think it helps?
So I would say that definitely helped, because you already it's like it has been 10 years, and over that time we worked on many different projects, and many different um, complex projects, and also navigated difficult environments together. So you can basically argue that, like in a personal relationship, right, where you have this, in a professional relationship, it's the same way, that often you understand each other without words, right?
Right.
And that is definitely helpful. But it also our shaped our approach to how do we grow the team, and how do we find teammates together, because
Mm.
we knew what you can have, right, in because we had it. So it's like David and I, we had a
Mm.
great personal relationship and a great professional relationship, and we knew we wanted to carry that forward, right?
Right.
And that shaped our entire hiring strategy. That is like, then we were lucky to meet you, and then we were lucky to meet Gabriel,
Keep-
and the team dynamics is really like, it's from my wildest dreams. So I'm super happy about that.
Yeah, so talking about this, I want to discuss culture, which so people say that you should not talk about culture if you are you know a 4-person team, because it's like really small unit. But I don't think that's right. I think that in that setting too, there can be a essence of a bad culture. So we can talk about culture, but I also want to talk to you about the hiring strategy. um like, you met Gabriel and me, but what was your thought? Like, how did you wanted to hire? What were the primary qualities, key characteristics you were not looking to compromise? How was that about?
So there's a little anecdote buried in that, and that is, I was listening to Joran, the founder and CEO of Tiger Beetle, speaking about availability and consistency. And he mentioned that consistency in linearizable databases, consistency is table stakes. It's a given. You must have it, right?
Mm.
So therefore, it is availability that you should focus on, because the other one is basically the baseline. And
Right.
I thought that was such an interesting way of looking at something, right? So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a must have, and because it's a must have, you actually don't need to focus on it. You can focus on the nice to have, because the must have is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So then that was an interesting thought, and I was talking to David at the time, and I was like, what is a must have, right, in a software engineering team, in a small team, what is a must have? And it doesn't take very long to say, but the must have is engineering skills, right? So
Mm.
then we're just like, okay, if the must have is engineering skills, and we are not focusing on the must have, then what is what
Nice to
should
have.
we optimize for?
Mm.
And then that led us to the notion of, it has to be like team fit, has to be the culture, right?
Mm.
So is it a great fit on a personal and professional level? Is a team dynamic a dynamic where we all want each other to succeed, drive each other forward, like pull each other up, um, volunteer to help each other, right?
Right.
And then that was what we put most of our energy to. So the technical interview part was very short. There was no like I don't know, lead code or white code or whiteboarding sessions. Was basically just check the box, check the box, check the box. And then the entire focus was on a cultural interview to see if that is like, yeah, is this a team where you're like really excited, where you want to come to work like every day, where you're looking forward to the
Mhm.
interactions.
And before we go to the culture, so do you think that this strategy, this is great for starting out a team, but do you think that it will also be scalable in future?
Um, I understand the question, and I also I share the caution, right? It once you grow, and then it becomes difficult to scale, right? Oftentimes you hit a breaking point
Yeah.
where what works well for a small team may not work well for a large team. What works well for a small code base may not work well for a large code base. What works well for a small system may not work well for a large system. So
Yep.
that question of, does this hiring strategy hit the breaking point, is a very valid question, and I do not have an answer for it. But
Mm.
I am very, very motivated. Also for very selfish reasons, because I enjoy the team so much. So I'm very motivated to drive this or push this as far as I can push it and as we can push it together as a company. I'm very motivated, but I don't have a strict or a strong answer for that.
That is fine.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you spoke about having culture was important. So how do you define the, because it's a very ambiguous term
Mhm.
as according to me. So how do you define culture in a company setting, in a startup setting, and what are the key cultural traits if you which you are not looking to compromise, and that is what you want in your gold standard?
Yeah, that was also something that I was wondering at some point, and I was a little lost for a few days because I was looking for like cultural values, but I was looking for absolute values, right? Something where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, this is right, and where I say this is wrong, and like absolute right and absolute wrong, objectively, right?
Mhm.
And I had a really, really hard time. I didn't find it. It's like okay, this is when we talk about some cultural traits where it's like, oh, I think this is desirable, but why is it, right? So it's like, what
Right.
is that norm that tells me that it is? And eventually I was talking to like prospective investors at that time, and also
Mhm.
other founders. And so somebody then eventually said, Dominik, you're overthinking this. You are building the company, you're taking the first step. So
Mhm.
you can define what's right for Resonate. And that was actually a very like a liberating realization. I was like, oh yeah, actually that's right. So it's like
Mhm.
I can take this stance and say this is right for Resonate. I'm not claiming this is right in the absolute. I'm not claiming this is right for your company. I'm claiming this is right for Resonate. So
Makes
then
sense.
I was looking for like an articulation, right? Because I had certain like traits in mind, but articulating traits is still like hard.
Yeah.
And what I liked was Django code of conduct. The web framework, Django, the Python web
Yeah.
framework, has a really, really great code of conduct. That is like
Interesting.
I recommend everybody just have a quick look at it, because it established this baseline, right? Where we say, the baseline is we treat each other with respect, right? So we
Mhm.
we we come from a position of respect. We respect the person as a person. We respect the person as a professional, right?
Right.
We respect the work they put in. So that for me was a fantastic baseline, right? So if you meet that baseline, if I think about it, right, if you meet that baseline, is like really hard to go wrong from there on.
Mhm.
So, and then it adds some additions to this baseline, where it's like, assume that people come from a good place, right?
Mhm.
Assume that people are competent, right? So it's like, and then you work together, always thinking that, and always realizing that just because I know A and you don't know B, you know C and I don't know D, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and then if we are there to like work together and elevate each other, yeah, then it's just it's like beneficial for everybody on a personal journey, and then also on a professional journey, and then of course for the company.
Yeah. Um, I would just like to add two anecdotes to this one. Firstly, I was talking to my wife, and she was asking that how is it working at Resonate. So there, I just spoke randomly that actually this question is not completely correct, because rather than working at Resonate, it feels as if I'm working with Dominic and I'm working with David. So for basically, the personality traits and company traits are like almost identical at this stage, because we are so small. And that is why if I enjoy working with one person, it just makes working at Resonate really awesome, because all of us like kind of share similar traits and similar values. And the question at starts to come into the picture when there is a written values. There are thousands of people, and everybody has their own variation to that values. Then the question at is more correct. So just wanted to add that.
So I'm like super happy to hear that, yeah, because it's like, I know when I in the morning when I come, it's like, and I turn on my computer and I turn on Slack and we see each other on Zoom, that I'm excited. So I always hope that everybody else is as well. Yeah, so I'm like super happy to hear that.
Yeah. And to the future hires, if we hire, and if you're going to work remotely, I can completely say that it is awesome to work at Resonate. We have a good culture of trust, so that is something which I really really like here. So kudos for bringing taking that cultural thing so seriously, and uh, we all strive for keeping that bar really high.
And as so, it has been a bit of half a year for the company in general, right? And I think about, if I'm not mistaken, about 4 months for you and for Gabriel. So of course we are still like in the early steps, taking the
Hmm.
early steps. But yeah, the team dynamic totally exceeds my like wildest expectations. So I am super super happy about that.
Yeah. Okay, so moving forward, what makes Resonate so special? Because we have got our there are multiple people trying to solve this problem in their own way. um, as you said, that Resonate is a very young company, just 6 months old, with us two people 4 months old, and still we are claiming that we are going to dominate the distributed async await space. So why do you think that's possible? And I mean, I know why that's possible, but I would like to hear your opinion. That why do you think you are confident with this team and our approach?
So yeah, first to for a little bit of context, the way I look at the ecosystem or the category of durable executions is a bit like databases, right?
Hmm.
You have the category of databases, but there are many different interpretations of databases. Some are closer to each other. So, for example, you could argue that Postgres and MySQL are two interpretations of databases that are closer together, both of them SQL databases. And then, for example, you have Postgres and MongoDB, right? Where you can say, okay, they're further apart. They are both databases, they're interpretations of the concept of a database, but they're much further apart. And then You have databases like, for example, Tiger Beetle, that is a special purpose database. So that is even further away from Postgres than Mongo is. So even so, it's a similar category.
Right.
There are many interpretations, and it's not that one is right or one is wrong. It's like
Yeah.
the database world is already showing us, right, that there is a place for many different interpretations.
Not a
The
zero sum game.
reason why I am so bullish on our interpretation is actually this gold standard that we apply in terms of technical values. So
Mm.
oftentimes for systems, you see on like the highest priority technical value could be scalability or reliability. Usually it's one or the other. It's scalability, then reliability, then everything else. Or for others, it's reliability, scalability, then everything else.
Mm.
So for us, what we need to prioritize over everything in the terms of table stakes. Again, what is table stakes? Is reliability. So we put the reliability of
Mm.
our system at the forefront. But the very next one, and the one that is now in focus, because reliability is table stakes. We basically don't have to talk about it. We just have to meet reliability requirements. Um, so we focus all on our energy on the second technical value, and that is a delightful experience. And I summarize that as dead simple.
Mm.
So, and you see that a lot, right? You see it on the website, you see it on presentations. Our mascot basically embodies
Mm.
that, this notion
Yeah.
of dead simple. Yeah? And that is both. I want a dead simple developer experience for modern cloud-based systems. I also want a dead simple operational experience for
Mhm.
modern cloud-based systems. And then on top of that, we have this notion of being radically open, not only open source, but radically open to the point where you can replace any single component
Mm.
of the Resonate stack with
Mhm.
other implementations of that component. Everything is also based on open standards that are also released under open source licenses and worked on under open source licenses. And one as you like one commitment or one
Mhm.
signal towards that commitment is that we designed our system so that there is no central piece of infrastructure. So depending on how you deploy, how you architect and deploy your system, right? There is, you can use Resonate SDKs without
Mm.
ever using any of the Resonate infrastructure. So there is no centralized system. Resonate itself is decentralized, working only on
Yeah.
open standards instead of proprietary technologies.
Interesting. Um, so in general, do you think that uh, technologies which have primary focus on being open source first have a some sort of an advantage of being in public scrutiny all times, multiple quality developers seeing your code, filing issues, maybe opening quality PRs as well? So do you think that in today's world, if you are really solving a hard problem, then being open source first can be a good strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like basically on every single dimension,
Mm.
open source is going to be an advantage to your project and also to your business. Number one, obviously, it removes a huge barrier of entry, right? So
Mm.
it's like if you're open source with a permissive license like MIT or Apache, right?
Mm,
There, that is in itself crumbles basically all barriers of entry or
mm,
adoption, right? So that is one. But the other one that you mentioned, you invite like so much like expertise, right,
mm,
into your project. So um, we from the very beginning, I was stunned how people very quickly opened very like small PRs immediately, where they said, "Oh, there's a like, even if it's just a typo, there's a
yeah.
typo there or a broken link here," very quickly, immediately, all the way to really really um, high quality pull requests,
Yeah.
where I was just stunned. It's like how somebody was like um, getting into the project. Some of the really core decisions, like for example the deterministic simulation testing, how they get into that project
Mm,
and contribute to it. It was just a great experience.
yeah.
So I would always do it again. It's like the open source always. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I am fortunate to meet some amazing people because of, working in a company which is trying to build a community and which is open source. For example, I met somebody named Srini, and he also had a very good contributions to Resonate, and we chatted along. We chatted long for on different topics for distributed systems as well. So I think that is an additional advantage for working in a company which is building that kind of culture, that you get to meet a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Now I really want to ask you, Dominic, what is the thing which is on your hoodie and as well as on the
Oh,
top?
oh, so so this is our mascot. This is Echo, and so we have since distributed async await is built on a distributed event loop.
Mm,
Our logo is an infinity sign, but so when we like identified the technical values, and the embodiment, dead simple, stuck with me so much, right, that I was like, okay, I want dead simple to be front and center.
mm,
And then I was just thinking, oh well, I mean, dead simple, right? So it's like, and I've always been into skulls and skeletons. Actually, I want to say before it was cool, hopefully, but
yeah.
maybe it's not cool anymore. Yeah, but I was always like big into skulls and skeletons, and then I was like, oh, dead simple, right? So it's like it basically has death in the name. And then I
Yeah.
was thinking about, okay, death. What is the depiction of death? It's usually like a skeleton in a robe, right? Oh,
Mm,
robe. That kind of looks like a hoodie, and a hoodie is the official, unofficial, or unofficial official
yeah.
uniform of every software engineer, right? And then I was like,
Yes.
all right, this is going to be a friendly little skeleton wearing a hoodie, yeah, and it's basically the embodiment of dead simple. And then I
Mm,
was also thinking, okay, what's the right name for that mascot, right? And then it
mm,
was like, okay, resonate. Something resonates. It has like this sound reverberations, right?
mm,
And then eventually I was like, oh, echo. Echo is a nice name, and echo is also a gender neutral name, right?
right.
So then, and I mean, it's like, what's more gender neutral than a skeleton? Yeah. So it's like, okay, so you have now this gender neutral skeleton with a gender neutral name, and it's
Mhm.
like this cute little thing that embodies dead simple. And then it's like, I am totally in love with Echo. So now I have Echo on everything. Yeah.
That is quite cool. So, if do you have plans for having this hoodie or something related to Echo available, for our community later on, in the future when we raise millions of dollars,
Oh,
in
so
Series
it's
C,
like,
Series D?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, yes. I also have like my own personal treasure, like a small stack of eco stickers. Yeah,
Hmm.
and obviously not just me, the team also, but yeah, that my own personal stash of eco stickers. And yeah, I actually I can't wait until I have echo on all of our merch. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like the infinity sign, because it is so fitting for a distributed event loop, is going to be Resonate's logo. But I think the brand of Resonate is going to be built all around Echo. It's just super likable.
Yeah. Um, Even infinity. I think it was David Hilbert, the mathematician who thought a lot about infinity, and then he lost his mind. I think that, I mean, just something cool which I remembered because of. Do you know that story?
I think he was trying to think in multiple dimensions. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
yeah, he used to think that there are infinities inside infinities. So for example, there's an infinity between 0 to 1, and then there is obviously numbers are infinite. So multiple types of infinities also exist. I think something around that he was. Uh, but yeah, not really sure.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
remember
quite. I sometimes go insane. Yeah, when I look at the code and the code doesn't do what I want. But then, luckily, so far, I have always come back. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, before I ask anything else, I really want to ask you, how has Resonate come so far? What we have done in 6 months, and what is one immediate milestone which we are looking forward to, let's say in next 1 2 3 months?
So I do believe that the focus, this relentless focus on dead simple, elevated resonates journey, or accelerated resonates journey a lot. Many times we so I believe in not only dead simple interfaces, but
Hmm.
also dead simple implementations. And so I personally, it's like I feel, um, when I don't understand something, I'm uncertain, and when I'm uncertain, I'm insecure, and there is almost
Right.
nothing worse. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but when I truly understand something, then I feel the certainty, and when I'm certain, I burst with confidence. Yeah, it's a fantastic feeling. And we didn't only prioritize dead simple interfaces, but also dead simple implementation. And
Hmm.
you pay a startup cost, because simplicity comes long after complexity, long after, right? So, and we were just like never satisfied, right? We looked and was like, it's too complex, it's too complex, it's too complex. And we are about to package the entire programming model, distributed async await, entire programming model, into one TypeScript file, right? That has less than 1,000 lines,
Hmm.
that can be explained in its entirety in one blog post, right?
Hmm.
And while that has a startup cost, I believe that allowed us to move much faster. And that was true for the SDKs, the user-facing SDKs. That was true for some of our infrastructure components. So I think that that commitment to that, like the simplicity, and not only on the interface side, but also on the implementation, that accelerated our journey. And so that leads to the first release candidate that we were aiming for at Resonate, which I said, let's do it April 1st. And then everybody said, don't do it April 1st. That sounds like an April Fool's joke. So now it's April 2nd, yeah, which is a
Yeah.
Tuesday, probably not a bad day to release something. So on
Hmm.
April 2nd, we want to release the first release candidate of our SDK that embodies our entire programming model. And up to
Mm.
that point, everything happens in the open, everything is open source. So it's totally available to look at it, totally available to hack with it, right?
Mm.
But April 2nd is more of the big stepping stone, where then for the first time um, Resonate flexes its release muscle.
Yeah. So do you think that is Resonate is on track for that, achieving April 2nd, or do you think that there are some challenges? Should we be excited to go to the repo, do a Git clone, and start with it on April 2nd? What do you think? How do you think that's coming along?
Yeah, I do think there is always there's always a balance to be found, right? So you do not want to, or at least that's my philosophy. I don't want to create undue pressure
Mm.
with artificial deadlines, right? I have once in a while in my professional career I have lived through that, and where um, arbitrary and, in my opinion, undue deadlines were imposed on teams, and it did not create a good team culture. So, on the other side, right, there's this idea of well, just like give somebody 2 weeks, they will do it in 2 weeks. Give somebody 1 week, they will do it in 1 week. So there is a balance to be found, and that is true also for our plan. We are trying to
Mm.
challenge ourselves, but we are also trying um, to have a balance, to hang on to our sanity, right? We don't want to go insane, and we don't want to burn out on the first release. Yeah. With many more releases after the first to come. Yeah.
Mm.
So I want to say there is we tilt the probability that we are able to hit that milestone always in our favor, right?
Mm.
So I am confident on the April 2nd release date, but you are absolutely right to also always be cautious, because nobody ever falls into an obvious trap, right? There may be some hidden traps down the road that are not
Yeah.
immediate and easy to spot. So far we have not identified them. Yeah. So knock on wood that there are none as we expect, but there
Mm.
is always the real possibility that we have to push back a bit. But the April 2nd release candidate is, I think, very much achievable.
Mm. Um, so to the listeners and to the viewers, I let me tell you one thing, that if you have Dominik on your show, there are three things which you cannot miss talking about. One is the workout and fitness. Second is distributed systems. Third is formal methods. So we have always, I mean, whenever I have pinged you, you are always doing something which is related to workout, or you are actually like working on Resonate. So how does that look like? Why do you work out so much, Dominic?
It's like that. One of the benefits of remote work is that, and this setup that I enjoy is that basically just outside of the view of this camera is my workout equipment. So working out and working is actually is a very fluent transition. So once in a while, you see me on Zoom with workout gloves because I forget to take them off before I join the Zoom call. So yeah, that is a very fluent transition in this
Yeah.
this office. Is true.
And the second thing is, I have seen you, diving really deep. I mean, trying to understand. I won't say that uh, we are um, we are trying to be the best, but we are still trying to explore things. And we have done some really good work related to PLang, which we'll talk about in the future episodes. So stay tuned and subscribe if you haven't. So why do you think formal methods are important? And as a somebody who is working out, working, and somehow takes out time to read, that big book of radio transactions. So why do you think thinking in terms of formal methods, etc., is important, especially if you are in a role where you are thinking about design more than implementation? Because I think that is what you are trying to do here in the team, because we are mostly engrossed in the implementation, the coding side, as Lily Lamport tries to say, and you are more engaged in the programming side of things. So how is that, uh, you know what do you call, yin and yang sort of a thing
Oh, nice.
there exist in Resonate? Yeah.
I have two thoughts on that question, and the first one is that usually for everything there
Mm,
is always more than just one mental model, and different authors think about the same concept differently, right? And there is something to be learned from each and every mental model. So I'm
mm,
trying to get as many diverse opinions and also viewpoints on something as possible, because
mm.
one of my favorite stories, The Blind Man and the Elephant, teaches us, right,
Yeah.
that
Mm,
you have to touch the entire animal to actually understand its very essence, right?
mm,
And if you look at async await, for example, there are indeed many different papers that deal with exploring the essence of async await. Some use process calculus. Other one use an extended lambda calculus. There are actually multiple different extended lambda calculi out there that all deal with async await and functions and futures, or functions and promises. And so the more mental models you look at, right, the more complete your picture
mm,
becomes. And I very much enjoy this moment when the when the fog clears and you can see more and more and more until it's just crystal clear in your mind. So it's like I'm
mm.
always striving for that, because as I said, it's like uncertainty leads to insecurity. Yeah. And I love that feeling of understanding, certainty, and confidence. So I'm always chasing it. And the other one, the formal methods, I am enamored with formal methods, because they have a tendency to be minimal.
Mm.
And I just recently tweeted about snapshot isolation, and tomorrow, Friday, I
Yeah.
release an issue of the Weekend Read, my weekly newsletter, where I
Mhm.
also look at a formal model of snapshot isolation. And I was working on reducing that. And snapshot isolation is a multi-version concurrency control mechanism for databases, right? So it's an isolation level on databases that make sure that concurrently executing transactions do not conflict. Yeah?
Mm,
And I was looking at a minimal mental model. What is the absolute minimum you need to
mm,
understand a given concept? And you cannot take anything away from it, because otherwise you cannot reason about the concept anymore. But you do not have to add anything in order to understand. And I like to compare that to a chair. You can reduce a chair, right? You can take legs away until you have 3 legs. If you take
mm,
another one away, it's not a chair anymore. That chair stops to be a chair, right? So you found the very essence, the absolute minimum of what a chair is. It's basically a plate on 3 legs. Yeah?
mm,
And that gives a lot of clarity, because all of the noise is completely gone. You only see or only hear signal, no noise, only
mm,
signal. And again, it contributes to lifting that mental fog to see crystal clear, that yeah, I just enjoy diving into the mental models. Yeah, as Dijkstra said, we
Mm.
abstract not to be vague, but we abstract to be absolutely precise.
That is going on my Twitter timeline. So so with that, I say that thank you, Dominic, for joining us on this podcast, this episode. This is going to be a um, monthly and a weekly thing, which we have plans to really continue till the month of March for sure. So every week you can expect some of interviews like this with all of our team members talking about the cool stuff which we are doing. We want to reach the community engagement. We want to talk to you all more. We want to reach out as much as possible. If in case you guys are interested to talk to us, contribute, there is a Slack link on our website, as well as below, which you can click and join in the description. Or if you are technical, you want to contribute, play with the repo, go to the GitHub. The link is again available in the description below. There are two things. There's a Resonate server, there is a Resonate SDK. There is no launch, we have like not officially launched it. That is what Dominic was talking about. It'll be launched with all the, every thing, all the information in April 2nd. But that we are building in public, so it whatever is there. You can take a clone, you can play with it, you can feel free to file PRs, feel free to raise issues. We'll be happy to engage with you. So yeah, thanks Dominic, thanks for joining, and let's hope we can do this again.
Hey, thank you very much, and I'm already very much looking forward to being the host and interviewing you.
Oh, thanks a lot. All right.